very pleased to be here to continue to announce our Affordable Florida for All as it relates to housing. I'm particularly honored, though, this morning, I must tell you. I am with a community leader, a true advocate for housing in the Sunshine State, former Lieutenant Governor nominee, and my dear friend, Crist. Crist, thank you so much for joining us today. We're here today because housing in the Sunshine State is more unaffordable than ever, and Governor DeSantis' policies, sadly, are only making it worse. Our housing market prices and rent increases are catching up to places like New York. But guess what? Our wages are not. Floridians are seeing wages here grow at a slower rate than the national average, and it's no wonder why our own people can't afford to live in the state. This governor has made it worse by defunding and diverting the Sadowski Fund. For those of you who don't know, the Sadowski Fund in Tallahassee is a fund that's developed to provide for housing. He cut it in half. And then, sadly, even after that, when he was going through the budget, he took another $200 million out of that fund. In my hometown of St. Petersburg, much like Orlando, if you look at the skyline, you'll see some beautiful condominiums going up, many of them luxury. Unfortunately, so many of our fellow Floridians can't afford them. And we're heading for a housing crisis under Governor DeSantis, who has no plan or vision for the future. When I'm governor, I will fully fund this Sadowski Fund, make sure that it does not get raided, so that more affordable housing is available to our fellow Floridians. That's who we're supposed to work for. They're our constituents. My Affordable Florida plan is also a promise to Floridians that once I'm in office, I won't turn my back on veterans, young families, first-generation home buyers, or anybody else. And for renters, our plan will also restore housing funding that politicians took from the people of Florida, because we believe housing should be safe, it should be clean, and it should be affordable. The Crist administration will also appoint a housing czar to work alongside local government, municipalities, and housing affordability grants and our federal friends to make sure we have the resources that you need to get the housing that you all deserve. Unlike Governor DeSantis, the Crist administration will not slash funds or resources for affordable housing, and we won't ignore the crisis at the doorstep just because it's tough. We cannot watch Floridians suffer while Governor DeSantis ignores the reality too many are living in today. And with that, I want to turn it over to an affordable housing champion and a dear friend and a great Floridian, Crist.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, former Governor Crist and future Governor Crist, I'm delighted that you're here at the Hillcrest Hampton House, a community that has been here for 50 years, providing affordable housing to a wonderful community of seniors here in the heart of downtown Orlando. Charlie Crist is the only person in this race who understands what an affordable housing crisis we have in Florida, that it is one of our biggest economic challenges to moving forward and being a great state. And he has a real plan with big ideas that will make a huge difference for all the people of Florida. I'm so excited to be a huge supporter of his campaign, because I know when he's elected, he will not only stop the billions of dollars that Ron DeSantis and his GOP friends have taken from housing all across the state of Florida, but he will also seek to restore precious funding that has been stolen for decades and invest that in making home ownership for all of Florida families more affordable, for taking on the climate crisis, for making Florida more resilient. And so this is a big plan. The only plan in this race for governor of the state of Florida in 2022 that will tackle our affordable housing crisis. I think it's going to be one, if not the biggest issue in this race, and I'm delighted that Charlie Crist is the candidate who has a plan to tackle it. And then Governor Crist, we have with us today Austin Valley, who is a real housing expert in the state of Florida, and here locally understands the crisis in Central Florida that is just hurting families everywhere. And he leads a group called YIMBY who is taking on affordable housing and making it. And if he could just speak for a few minutes to share about that issue as well. Delighted in this plan.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Austin Valley. I am a chapter lead of an organization called Orlando YIMBY. Stands for Yes in My Backyard. I'm grateful for Charlie and Chris for inviting me to have an opportunity to be part of this discussion, this important discussion. You know, it's notable for a leader in Florida to center housing affordability as part of the conversation. A lot of leaders in Florida choose to just ignore the issue and kind of hope that it will just go away. But if you talk to working residents of Orange County and across the state, they'll tell you that this problem is not just going to go away. It's going to take bold ideas and leadership to help fix this problem. At Orlando YIMBY, we advocate for housing abundance. There should be enough housing such that every individual has an affordable place to live near opportunity. There was some data that came out recently from the Orlando Realtors Association that showed that there is a record low, a historic low number of homes available for sale today. This is simple supply and demand. There's not enough housing, and there is definitely not enough affordable housing. You can go talk to your friends, go talk to your neighbors. The burden of excessive rent, the burden of out-of-control housing costs is preventing Floridians from saving for the future, from starting businesses, from paying down debt, from forming families, from living comfortable lives in our great state. And so I'm very grateful for the ideas that Charlie has brought forward. I'm particularly excited about the restoration and protection of the Sadowski Fund. These dollars are critical to getting shovels in the ground, getting walls up, and getting people into homes that they can afford. I also love the idea of a housing czar, one person that can be accountable and solely focus on housing in our state. I used to be in the Army, and this is what we would call, you need one throat to choke, right? You need someone who's going to focus on the issue. Now, Charlie's a nice guy. I don't know if he'd use that kind of imagery, but we all know, look, Charlie knows how to get stuff done. I believe that Charlie knows how to set accountability on an issue and deliver on it. And so, again, I'm very grateful that Charlie has brought forward these ideas, that he's centering housing affordability as part of the discussion, that he's invited in critical stakeholders and community organizations to be part of that conversation. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, with that, if you have any questions, we'll do our best to try to answer them. I guess you were pretty complete. Yes, ma'am. Of course.
Talk a little bit about Orange County Mayor Jerry Dimmings has done some research in the past. He's done like a 6-month study of obviously the affordable housing crisis that was here in Orange County.
Yes.
Have you been in contact with him to kind of find out like how to resolve that situation here in Orange County as well? Kind of talk a little bit about that.
I've not. Chris, do you know the gentleman by chance? Maybe
Sure.
you could
Well, and I think that Governor Crist's plan will be the number one thing to help Jerry Dimmings accomplish that here in Central Florida. So to your point, because we've had such little leadership in Tallahassee to address the affordable housing crisis, mayors across the state of Florida are doing whatever they can. But Jerry Dimmings faces a huge issue with limited resources. What Governor Crist will be doing is essentially creating the resources that folks on the ground like Jerry Dimmings knows what to do if he has the resources. And by stopping the raids and restoring these funds, his hands will be empowered to do big things here in Central Florida, just like the mayor of Miami-Dade and other places.
Anything else? Well, another great day in Central Florida. Yes.
That retired people like us.
Yes, ma'am.
As far as, I don't know how many millions of people are here with no place to go
Well, too many.
on a fixed income.
Exactly. She's asking about retirees, people on a fixed income. How can this make it easier for them to have affordable housing in the Sunshine State? It's a great question. The answer is that by not slashing the Sadowski funds in Tallahassee, again, a trust fund, if you will, particularly designed to apply for more affordable housing, to help people like Mayor Jennings here in Orange County, as Chris was pointing out, just to make more resources available on the whole. That's what the current governor has slashed. So if you stop cutting it and start adding to it, and work with our federal friends. One of my former colleagues in the House of Representatives, Representative Fudge, is now the head of HUD, Housing and Urban Development. So we can coordinate with all of these resources and make sure that we're doing what's right so that all of Florida, and in particular, of course, Central Florida, since we're here today, to work with great mayors like Buddy Dyer and Mayor Demings to make sure that seniors and across the board individuals, middle class people, working folks, have the opportunity to live in housing that is affordable, that is clean, and that is safe.
Representative Crist. Yeah.
What are you going to do about the situation of raising money? DeSantis has now raised so much money. How are you going to raise it?
We'll just keep raising it. We've raised over $6 million. I'm very proud of that. We're just going to keep doing it. It's one day at a time. And it's not just about money. It's about people. It's really about people and doing what's right for them. And sadly, this governor is focused on things that really don't relate to Florida anymore. It seems like his path is trying to get to a Republican nomination in 2024 and go on a very hard right tack, trying to take away a woman's right to choose, for example, not enforcing civil rights, making it difficult for our kids to get a good education in our schools, not supporting our teachers with pay raises, just bonuses. That's not right. And it really comes down to respect. You need to respect the people that you're elected to serve and understand that you're supposed to be a public servant for them and serve with a servant's heart and not use the office of governor to run for president and forget about Florida in the meantime. Yes, ma'am.
Let's kind of talk about, obviously, as someone that's on the Democratic side, working with the folks in Tallahassee, it's majority Republican.
Right.
Talk about how you would kind of work with them to get this goal accomplished, given that the goals are slightly different.
It's an excellent question. For those of you who may not have been able to hear it, basically, I'm a Democratic candidate for governor. Should I win the election, we have a Republican House and a Republican Senate. More likely than not, probably will stay that way, but you never know. But let's assume you're correct in your question. It's all about relationships. Chris King, I think, knows that better than anybody. This is a man with a good heart who understands that you have to have empathy and compassion for others and work with them and not be, so political rather than being compassionate. The current governor gives a hard time to many different groups in our state, LGBTQ, for example. He vetoed funding that would have helped. We're in, obviously, Orlando, where the Pulse nightclub tragedy occurred. Bipartisan funding had been provided last year in the legislature to help the family members who still suffer from that horrible loss. He vetoed it inexplicably. That's not the way to lead, the way to work together. The way to work together is to respect others, even if they happen to be Republicans. And I believe that we can do that. I really do. But there's another thing. It's not just the carrot. There's also a stick. When you get elected governor of Florida, they give you a pen. It's called a veto pen. So you have the opportunity to negotiate as well as, work with. And I would try to do both and try to err on the side of work with.
Would you select Christine as lieutenant governor?
Would I? Well, I don't know that I could ever do better. We talked about a czar. Maybe he'd be a good czar too. Listen, he's a dear friend and a man who cares deeply about our state. Or he would not have been in the running 4 years ago. And I should point out, Governor DeSantis barely beat the ticket that Crist was on. It was by 0.4 of 1%, 30,000 votes out of over 8 million votes cast. This is very doable. All we have to do is work a little bit harder, come to people, speak from your heart, be honest with them, tell them what you believe, and most importantly, listen to them. My dad used to always tell my 3 sisters and I growing up, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. Respect his ratio. Make sure you listen twice as much as you talk. Thank you. Of course.
As far as DeSantis, I'm not up on a lot of news and politics, but how do you feel about the COVID and wearing masks in school, the whole embarrassing mess this man has created, I feel, as far as representing Florida?
asking about COVID and how the governor has treated it in our state. It's a disaster. I mean, I'll just be straight up. You know, when he signed an executive order back before school started last year, basically saying that kids can't wear a mask in school, you know? And so I have a 5-year-old niece, lives in St. Petersburg, where I live. She goes to school for the first time in her life last August. She goes into the classroom. Pinellas was not one of those counties that defied the governor. They went along with his executive order. And so nobody's wearing a mask when she went to school. A couple days later, she contracts COVID. Of course, she goes home in the evening with her family. She has a 2-month-old niece, 2 months old at the time, back in August. A couple days later, she contracted COVID, 2 months old. So while this governor wants to appeal to the anti-vax, the anti-mask crowd for political reasons, people like my nieces suffer for it. And others all over the state of Florida. It's not unique to me. You know, we've lost over 64,000 of our fellow Floridians. They passed on under this governor's leadership. Over 5 million of our fellow Floridians have contracted COVID under this governor's lack of leadership. That's not right. I believe in science. I take the advice of physicians and nurses and other healthcare professionals. You know, when you're governor, you're a CEO of a state. Doesn't mean you're going to be an expert in every field, whether it's, you know, how to prepare for hurricanes or how to prepare for COVID. And this governor, for whatever reason, doesn't seem to be willing to listen and listen to experts who are only trying to save your life. And that's wrong. And you deserve better. Florida deserves better. And we're going to get it. Thank you so much. God bless you all.